Why, hello everyone. Welcome to Jolene's Happy Time Craftcast. I am Joleen and I am very excited as always to welcome you to Happy Time. Thank you so much for being here. We have a lot to get through today. But as always, I would like to start with a few little updates about what's going on here at Big Raven Farm. Um, I've said it a gajillion times, so forgive me for being a broken record. Our 2026 retreat schedule is up and ready to go. We have 27 retreats coming up in 2026. Some of them are led by other people, yoga teachers, artists, other folks. And then the rest of them are taken care of either by Darren, my husband, or myself. So we have pick your projects, cooking, mixed media, art journaling, cyanotypes, and eco prints. And then we also have new this year a holiday retreat where the projects are designed so that you can either make them for yourself, give them as a gift, or they fall in the lane of holiday decor. And Darren is so funny. I've been working on projects for that retreat, and he's like, how many do you need? Is his question to me. And I just can't stop making stuff because I think this is one of my top 10 ideas, honestly. And so I think I've shown these to you before, but I want to show you again. So I'm working on like a village of trees. And again, the idea is you can make these for yourself or you can give them as a gift. And so I just want to show you my trees that I've created. So, and this one I think I've shown you before, but check this out. We're going to use a repurposed candlestick because I have more candlesticks than I ever have candles. So they work perfectly as a base for a tree. This one is vintage buttons. And then over the top, I took that little doodad and did the AB crystals or bedazzler gem things. I don't usually work with those, but I love it. So that's tree number one. Tree number two, the disco ball tiles, and another candlestick. And I think it worked out super. My third one that I just finished this weekend, so excited about this one. Not usually my lane, right? Usually I like to use repurposed items or book paper or whatnot. Oh gosh, I even dropped it. But here it is, kind of new for me. Those are fuzzy pom-pom ball things with a little bit of rickrack and a little bit of a ball at the top. So now visualize you've got this whole village of trees that are together. And I'm still working on, of course, a tree made of paper or a tree made with bookboard, something a little bit more in my lane. But that's what I've been working on. I've been working on projects for that holiday retreat. So as you've heard me say a million times, there are only 14 to 16 spots. So if you would like to join us in 2026, make sure you follow the show notes because the links will be there to get you where you need to be. So that's super exciting and that's coming up. Other than that, we are getting ready for retreat season and we have a few weeks off in between big events. So we're doing like house projects, like organizing, cleaning, a little bit of painting, nothing super fun, but all the stuff that needs to be done. So for those of you who are here live, thank you. It's nice to see you in the comments. Some good friends, Kathy, Karen, Deborah, Kelsey. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. All right, that's what's going on here at the farm. Let's circle back and let's talk about today's guest. Always excited to welcome new friends to the Happy Time Craftcast. And today's crafty chat is going to be with someone who I know you are going to appreciate and love, especially when we talk about what she's doing in the area of pet portraiture. So Emily Marie is my guest today, and she is a full-time watercolor artist. She specializes in custom pet portraits and botanical art. She's a former elementary teacher, and she brings clarity and care to every painting, and she creates gently is one of her mantras. She teaches watercolor classes in Wisconsin and online, and she's got all kinds of stuff that you can find digitally or in person, digitally through Skillshare, but we'll get to all of that. So for right now, in this moment, please welcome Emily Marie to the Happy Time Craftcast. Hi, Emily.
Hi, thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Oh my gosh, our absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. So full-time artist,
Yes.
right? Just in a nutshell, what does that mean to you that this is your gig?
I mean, it's kind of a dream come true. I wasn't quite sure that this was going to actually work out. And
Sure.
it is a challenge every day, but it's something that I do appreciate having the flexibility to take on the projects I want to take on, to teach the
Yeah,
classes I want to teach, and to actually make a living off of my art is something that I didn't think was possible. I started actually in college back at UW-Madison. I actually started as art as a major and then quickly switched because I thought, I don't know if I can make a living off of this. And
right.
it's kind of full circle that now I'm back at it.
So, when you meet a new friend, like, how do you describe your art? Like, what do you say? I do.
I mean, I usually say that I'm a watercolor artist, but mainly instructor. I do focus a
Okay.
lot on instructing and instructing beginners. So
Right.
people who've never painted with watercolors before, or maybe they did when they were in middle school or elementary school with those little tiny Crayola yellow
Yeah,
boxes.
that's 99 centers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my kind of jam and what I found my little niche in is teaching adults
Yeah.
who also, along with myself, are just looking for ways to de-stress after a long work day or to add something new, a new hobby. Um, it might, it most likely is not going to turn into their full-time careers, and they
Sure.
probably aren't going to be the next Georgia O'Keeffe watercolor artist, but it's something that they want to explore and kind of expand on and use as more of a stress relief and something like a fun hobby. And so I teach those kinds of beginners, and it's really fun watching people start um, their journey and how excited they get. And some of them actually continue to paint
Uh-huh.
on a on a weekly basis, and even some of my past students have started their own Instagram pages of
Right.
showing their art, and so it's really fun to watch everyone's journeys.
So, what do you say? Like, what is one of the objections that you hear most often from folks new to watercolor? Like, what's the biggest barrier or hurdle that you hear about?
I think the biggest one is that they don't think they're artistic.
Sure.
And so I think so many people going through elementary school, high school, as a young adult, they
Mhm.
think that art needs to be a certain way, a certain aesthetic. And so they they consider themselves from very early on not
Sure.
artistic. And the goal is not to create something that's beautiful for everyone. It might be
Right.
beautiful for you or therapeutic for you.
Right.
And then there's also a lot of people who haven't tried watercolors because they say they're not good at drawing. And
Right.
so I like to take the drawing out of it for a lot of my beginners, and
Cool.
I'll print the template onto their watercolor paper. So we
Okay.
don't do any drawing. Or I find projects where there's no drawing included, like stuff like this, where it's loose florals. And so I teach them how to paint the different types of flowers. So you're not drawing.
Right.
Um,
Right. I can
or
just
there's
see the
different,
faces of our listeners and viewers because holding up that loose water botanical and saying that's a beginner project, I think might kind of be like, what? You're kidding. That
yeah.
seems so advanced and so fancy.
No, and actually this is another one that's a beginner. So the barn is the only thing that's drawn out ahead of time, and everything else is with using paint, and I teach you how to do the fence, things like that. Um, but it definitely is, watercolors can be a challenging medium until you are instructed on how to control the water, how to figure out how much water is too much water,
Yep.
how much is not enough, and then what kinds of supplies are the supplies that you should be investing in, and what
Yeah.
are the supplies that you can save money on and use a student grade for. And I
It has
feel like
it has
I've been
come up a
able to
lot here.
what's that?
The question of paper has come up a lot on the Happy Time, so I can't wait to hear what your opinion is on watercolor paper.
Yeah. So my opinion on watercolor paper, and some people maybe don't want to hear this,
No, we
but
do. We want to hear.
well, because my opinion is to use the professional quality, the nicest paper that you can. If it's something that you're practicing, you're just practicing
Yeah,
little bits and pieces, then it's fine to use the student grade.
yeah,
My student grade paper that I like to use in my classes is Blick Studio from Blick Art Supplies, where you can
yeah,
find online. And then the professional quality paper that we use in classes and I use in my home studio is Arches.
yeah.
And so I
No,
know
I
it's
appreciate
expensive.
you giving it to us straight because I also like question about that. So even if you're practicing on student grade, like let's say we're practicing on Blick student grade, are we really practicing in the same way as Arches? Like, isn't it
No.
kind of comparing apples to, shoes? Like,
Yeah.
like it
So the
doesn't.
only reason why we sometimes practice on Blick in my
Yeah.
classes is to get the sequence of what
Mm,
you're
yeah,
doing
chapter.
down so
Mhm.
that you have enough time because right you don't have a lot of time in watercolors. You have to wet the paper, you have to
Yep,
drop in the color, you have to mix the color, you have to lift the color if you have too much. You have to, add salt if you need to, or there's all kinds of things you have to do
sure.
in a very short amount of time.
Yep.
And so practicing those steps on student grade paper first
Ah,
is me and practicing what color combinations you think you might want.
right.
That's why we're using the student grade. And
Mhm.
then when we use the professional grade paper, the
Mhm.
timing is going to be, you're going to have more time, but at
Right.
least you've spent a little bit of practice
Mhm.
understanding, okay, I need to do this first and then this and then that. And okay, now I feel ready to try it
Right.
on the professional grade.
So it sounds like you're developing like some muscle memory and some sequencing to that. And I actually have an idea that I'm sure others have thought of, but what I do is I ask for watercolor paper, this stuff, for gifts and like Mother's Day and Valentine's Day and like all those times when people are thinking they might want to get their mother, wife, sister, daughter
Mhm.
a gift. And I take it in the big size and then I cut it down. It
Yes,
seems to be more economical that way.
same.
And it's not like, it's not a fun purchase sometimes because it is so expensive and it definitely does feel like a treat. So in gift giving time, that's what I tell people.
Yes, I agree. I do that as well. And then another little kind of tip that I often
Hmm.
tell students is that even if their projects on their professional grade paper doesn't turn out quite
Yeah.
how they're thinking, don't get rid of it because either you can still practice on the backside,
Yep.
or you can cut it up. And I also create a lot of artwork where you cut the
Sure.
pieces that you do like and you leave the ones you don't. And then you can, I use little like foam squares to put
Yeah.
them
They
on
raise
top
it
of
up.
to raise it up. And so I'll
Yeah.
make a lot of greeting cards this way,
Love
especially
it.
for when I'm practicing loose florals.
Hmm.
And you want to feel that nice paper and you want to practice your brush strokes in the professional grade, but not every flower is going to turn out. And
Right.
so I'll cut out then the ones that do turn out, then use little foam pieces, put them on just a regular cardstock card because you don't need then the expensive watercolor cards.
Right.
And
Right. We
then
can
I,
back down. Yeah.
and then I have an unlimited amount of cards for weddings or birthdays or anniversaries, things like that. So using that paper in a different way where
Sure.
maybe it's not hanging it on the wall because you were using it as a
Hmm.
professional practice, but it didn't quite turn out right,
Right.
or using the backside.
Well, and a couple things about that. One, isn't it fun to get a card? Like that's kind of like analog, and we don't really do that anymore. So I think that's lovely. And then my second thought on that is, okay, if you don't send cards or make cards, what about like a tag or another piece
Mhm.
of ephemera or something that you can use in your art journals if you're into that, something you can use in collage? I would say that there are like all kinds of things that you can do with the pieces that might not make it into,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, Emily, in preparing for your visit today, we did ask our community if they had any questions for you. So, I want to get to those questions just in case I'm repeating myself and I'm asking you what they want to know. So, here is our first one. What watercolor supplies do you actually recommend for beginners without breaking the bank? That's a good one. We talked about paper. So, paper is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts about paint, I guess.
Yeah. So if what I recommend to people without breaking the bank is use the money for the good paper and then
Yeah.
everything else use student grade until you've found the colors that you like working with,
Yep.
or you can save up a little bit.
Sure.
Watercolor paints. I use Daniel Smith in my studio, but those are professional grade and they're fairly expensive per
Yeah.
tube. Um, Daniel Smith also offers little dot cards that you can figure out. You can wet those dot cards and use them to test out the colors. So that's great. I definitely recommend that for people who are wanting to purchase maybe one or two professional grade paints, but are wanting to test things out. And then for any student grade paint, Winsor and Newton makes a student grade line that's called Cotman, and that is very affordable. Their tubes are pretty affordable. They also make pans that are Winsor Newton Cotman, and so I would suggest for somebody who's trying to save a little money, save the money on the paint, and then save the money on the brushes. Maybe instead of buying every size brush or every
Yes.
specialty brush as a nice brush, I tell all my students this, that I have one favorite brush that I
Okay.
use,
What
I would
size is it? Go
say
ahead.
95% of the time.
Uh-huh.
And it's one brush. It's a round size 4,
Okay.
and it is a black velvet silver limited brush. And that is the one that I use for practically all of my pet portraits. I don't really use a detail brush at all because I control the amount of water that I have in that one brush so I can get a really fine point. And then I also use that brush, and I use a nicer quill brush, which is a larger capacity brush that I can use for a lot of the large areas for painting skies and for wedding things. And
Mm-hmm.
those with those two brushes, I can paint 95% of my
Sure.
paintings. And then the specialty brushes are fun, but I don't use them a lot. I do loose painting, like
Mm-hmm.
loose florals every once in a while, but that's not really my focus that I
Sure.
focus on. And so with the pet portraits, I use a lot more of those round size 4. And so for people also, and anybody watching, I do have a whole page on my website. It's a supplies
Yes.
guide. And
Mm-hmm.
so it goes through the professional grade supplies that I use and that we use in my in-person classes, but also some student grade suggestions as well, with links of where to purchase, things like that. And then there's also some color guides of colors that I like to use for botanicals, colors
Mm-hmm.
I like to use for pet portraits, and then the colors that I use in all my in-person classes.
We will make sure to link that in the show notes and get everybody there. And I apologize for my rooting around while you were talking. I do have some of those Daniel Smith cards. Um,
Yes.
so it comes in a little pack, and I think this one was called Confetti. And as Emily was saying, you get these little swatches. It is actually surprising how much color, like
Yes.
this little glarp, it goes the distance for sure.
Yes. So they
And
also offer, the ones that I have is a full paper size,
okay.
and I want to say there's 136 different paint dots.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
almost every single color that they make.
Oh my
And
gosh, that is
so
comprehensive.
it's super comprehensive, but what I did before I bought any large tubes from
Mhm.
Daniel Smith is I bought that, and then I tested out all these different colors and
Hey.
figured out, okay, I know I want a red, but which red? And
Yeah.
I know I want maybe a few greens, but which greens?
Yes.
And so taking that time to really understand which colors looked nice with each
Sure.
other instead of buying too many colors and then you don't use them.
Did you
So
swatch all of those to see?
I did not, but I
Okay,
just looked at what colors was I drawn to, and then
sure.
I would swatch a few of them,
Hmm.
but I didn't swatch all of them. There was too many to
Right,
swatch.
of course. I see people do swatches like on social media all the time, and I admire it, and I think, oh, I should do that, and then I just don't have the patience to do
Right.
it, so I don't do it. So I was curious if you do. Here's another Daniel Smith one that I actually like. Have you tried these little nuggets? These are the
Yeah.
sticks. Yeah,
Oh, the
and
sticks.
so
I have not tried those yet. I've been
I
wanting to.
really like them. I just slice them with an X-Acto knife. And then I put them in, you can see I've used up a lot of this one. I put it in my palette and then it's just like a little disc and it like works out great. I
Mhm.
don't think these were as expensive. I think I got 5 colors. I don't remember how much they were, but it was a great way to um, try another, because he's got like these palettes that are already put together, like a master palette that he's
Mhm.
already combined. And I say he, like, I don't know, is Daniel Smith a real person? Or is it a brand?
I don't think he's alive anymore, but
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was a real person. I don't know. That's a great question.
I need to know that. I need to find that out.
I know
Um,
it's a US based company, and I know Arches is a French based company.
uh-huh.
And so I think the sticks are a great idea. I know I've seen artists, they'll put one stick in each hand and then with a
Oh,
brush, they use a wet brush and then they wet the stick. So
and then
you
they,
can use it in multiple ways. You can either use the stick like a pencil
yeah.
and then wet after you draw, or you can hold on to all the sticks and use a wet brush and then use it like the watercolors. And then it's a
I'm
little bit
gonna try
more
it
opaque.
today. I'm gonna try it today and I'll put it in the show notes so you can all see how that turns out. That's mine are little nubbins right now, but I'm totally gonna try that. What a great idea. Oh my gosh. Love it. I love it. Lots of friends are saying hello in the chat. Hello, Royce. Karen and Kathy, hi. We're so glad you're here. If you're here, just go ahead and say hi in the chat. We love that. Okay, there's another question. There's actually a couple more. This one I think you already got. It was the go-to brushes or two that you use almost in every time. I will be sure to put that answer in our show notes and link them to that really great piece of content that you've made on your website. I saw it when I was over there snooping around. That's awesome. We have another one here. This might be a little more advanced question. I know I feel like a beginner and I certainly don't know the answer to this. So, how do you get soft blends and smooth washes without making mud?
That's a great question.
I
The
bet.
the first thing you have to think about is your colors.
Okay.
Um, if you are constantly mixing muddy colors, you might want to take a color theory class, or just Google it, see if there's a YouTube about color theory. There's certain colors that even when you do mix them and you know they make purple, they're going to make a muddy purple instead of a bright purple. And it has to do with if you're mixing, um, if you're mixing your, I forgot the word. It depends on which colors you're mixing, right?
Yeah,
And so if you're mixing your bright colors or cool or warm colors, I don't know why I just forgot
that's
that.
okay.
Anyway,
You are allowed.
so that's number one. If you know your colors are mixing and they're supposed to create a bright purple, for example, instead of a dirty purple, then the second thing you'll want to look at is making sure that you don't use too many layers. I think a
Mhm.
lot of times watercolor artists, especially before you get very confident in your painting, you might do one wash and then decide it's not bright enough or it's not colorful enough. And then you'll try to do another layer on top. Or you're painting a bird and you do the first wash and then you try to do a second layer on top. And then you don't like that, you do a third, a fourth, a fifth. There is such a thing as too many layers, and that will
Right.
muddy up your painting.
Mhm.
Um, if you're talking just washes, it unfortunately it is going to be a little bit of a learning curve. I think there's a very happy medium of the right amount of color, where if you have too much color, you're not going to get that nice transparency,
Mhm.
and your colors might mix in a way that you're not expecting. And if you don't have enough color, since we all know that watercolors dry a little bit lighter, It really takes a little bit of practice to understand how dark your color is going to be after it's dry.
Right.
As far as blending out, say you have a hard edge, you're painting a bird, and you want this really nice gradient of color in the body. And say you've got a hard edge because of how your color dried. My suggestion is always to stop and wait until it's fully dry. Because a lot of times if we try to make corrections when our paper is damp, we end up ruining it. And so wait until it's all dry, and then you can go back with a wet brush and try to blend out that edge with just a little bit of water. That can only be done if you're using the quality paper.
Right.
And so this is where the paper does matter. Paper does matter. And then lastly, for muddy colors, sometimes it can depend on the brand. I know it's more the color, but if you're constantly mixing your colors and you're finding that things get really muddy, maybe test out a different brand too as well.
Right.
Or maybe it's time to then try professional paints.
I love your answer to Emily about like, let's just take, so it's not really a super easy answer because there's so many variables, but I love the idea of, taking a little bit of ownership into some color theory and, just even Googling it or, watching videos about it. I know on TikTok, there's a really great account that's just on color theory and they mix like 3 colors and kind of show what happens. And it's one of my favorites pieces of content when it comes up in my feed. And of course, the more you watch, the more you get. But I love that answer because sometimes you have to, and I've been saying it a lot too about like when there's a piece of art that I really like, I've been spending just a little bit more time looking at it and trying to figure out why. Right? Is it composition? Is it rule of thirds? Is it contrast? Is it triangles? Like, what is it that makes it appealing to the eye? And I think that as you are learning a new modality or learning a new skill, I think that's a great question. Like, why do you like it, and what specifically is it? So you can kind of keep that in the back of your mind going forward with your own projects. I don't know, thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think even going to art school for 2 years, I still don't think I studied enough color theory. And color theory changes depending on the medium. I mean, it doesn't change all the time, but it does change, especially with watercolors, because of the amount of water that you're using, the opacity. I feel like it's almost more challenging to really figure out color theory with watercolors than say with acrylics, where the paint coming out of the tube
another variable.
is consistent. There's no variable. So you can get the same color with each portion. If you can figure out the portion, the percentage of 2 colors. With watercolors, it's a lot more challenging because you have the colors, you have the amount of pigment, and then you have the amount of water that you use per pigment. So it is a little bit more challenging.
You also have the absorption of the paper.
Yes.
So using kind of a, Amazon, get a whole bunch real cheap grade versus, of course, the Arches or the Blick, like it's going to be a different result. So I think, too, another answer to that question is testing. Like we have to kind of, and I know that's not like the funnest part of an art practice is the testing because you're not progressing or like making anything. But I do think that there can be some joyfulness and happiness in that discovery, as long as you decide that it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. And sometimes choosing the same theme or subject matter and painting. So for example, when I started with pet portraits. And when I started, I was not very good at them. I've changed my color palette since then. And so I think, but staying consistent and now having painted pet portraits for 5 years now, one, I get a lot faster and I love my results a lot more because I've had consistency within that theme. And it's very different painting pets than it is painting botanicals. If someone asks me, can you paint a person next to my pet? I always tell them, no, I don't have enough experience painting people. Painting skin tones is totally different. And I have to, spend a lot more time. So I think that's another thing when you're just starting out. It is going to be frustrating until you have enough practice in that one specific subject matter, because not all subject matter is painted the same way using the same colors.
Oh, exactly. And I've said this on the show about a million times, is that in 26, it is my personal goal to feel more comfortable doing watercolor. And what frustrates me is that I'm good at most things in my crafty world, because I like gravitate towards things I know and understand. But I feel like with watercolor, I just can't, I don't have it yet. But if I'm being honest with myself, I don't practice either. So it's almost like I just want to sit down and like, why can't I just make what you make, Emily? Because I can do artsy things, but I don't practice, not consistently. And I just have to keep reminding myself that like folks who make it look easy are probably doing that with a combination of talent and time. It's not just one of those variables. It's usually both.
And
And
I
it's
think, oh, sorry. I think the other thing too, along with that, even if you don't have that much time, is, for example, I wasn't very good at painting. I'm still practicing painting water. But there's other artists out there who are better at it than me. And sometimes taking classes from them and understanding more so their kind of equation, if you will, of what they do first, what they do. Most of the time, most artists who paint one subject matter over and over again, you'll find a lot of consistency in the amount of layers. If it's wet on wet first, then wet on dry, or whatever they're doing. And then color choice. And it's okay to take those classes and learn the basics of, okay, I'm going to start with this every time, and then I'm going to do this. Because if you try taking just a picture of your pet and doing it from zero and not having much background, it's going to be really frustrating. You might not know where to start. And so taking those classes from professionals who've spent years of practice and understanding kind of the format before you try it, I think is very valid. And it will help tremendously, because then you can use that same format to then paint your own.
Right. I love that takeaway, Emily. I love it so much. The idea that like, even though like we're artists, we're always learning. Like I'm not done. I have so much to learn. And like, again, it's that combination of like time and talent. And maybe some folks just like bloop, land in the world and they're like an expert at whatever they try. But I think that the commitment to yourself too, to just give it time and practice instead of shutting down and being frustrated like I have in the past. And I'm sure I'm not alone there, that if you don't kind of stay with it, that's what I think too. Like I pick it up for a while and then I walk away, and I pick it up and I walk away, and I haven't really retained what came before. But I think there's hope, right? There's hope for all of us.
There is.
And funny here, my friend Royce in the comments, she's our person to go to for faces, but she struggles with flowers. So it just goes to show that like we all have our strengths. Absolutely.
And that's okay. Just because I'm a watercolor artist,
right,
that, paints lots of pets, doesn't mean that I have to accept commissions of painting people or loose florals. I'm not going to feign that I am an expert at all of it.
Well, you know your strengths. And before I go on to our next section, this came up really fast, but I want to circle back. So your pet portraits are really amazing, and I will be sure to show notes and all of that. But I know that you have your commissions are open for your pet portraits. And so there was a question about, it's okay. We have a little human coming.
Sorry.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi. Say hi, honey.
Hi.
Yes.
So the question was about like, how do you capture their personality and not just their likeness? Like, I think it's more a question about like, how do you approach the challenge of doing a pet?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is making sure that my clients will send a variety of pictures, and then understanding that the pictures that they send is going to be painted as such. So if the dog has their tongue sticking out and their silly face, that's what it's going to look like. That's what, will capture that likeness from there. Then another kind of thing that I like to do, and it saves me time and money, I know it's controversial, but I do like to trace the outline using an app onto my watercolor paper, because I can then do it quickly to get the outline of
Yeah.
the head and the eyes and the tongue. And that really helps to get the likeness of it. The personality then comes in with the paints.
Sure.
And part of it is making sure that you don't muddy up the colors, which goes to the fact that maybe you only do 1, maybe 2 layers in the iris of the eye, because anything more might muddy up the color.
Right.
Things like that. And then I think that would be kind of the biggest tip
Right.
that I had.
And how do we, the public, get in queue for a pet portrait?
So everything is online.
Okay.
So if it's open and you can order it online,
Okay.
then
That
it's
means they are available.
available. Yep,
Okay.
and if you need it at a certain time, then you can always email me ahead of time. I do have,
Sure.
this is a print. There's a print
Oh,
of one of the pet portraits that I've done. Here for a little bit. And then here's another, this is a print of another one too. So
Oh my gosh, those
yeah.
are beautiful. I will make sure to link those in the show notes. And this actually is perfect timing. So, Emily, thank you for all of that. I'm going to go into our next segment, which is we're going to do a book review real quick because it's something everybody looks forward to every week. And so, the book I'd like to talk about this week actually is Art Journal Freedom. So I hope that's not backwards to you, but this is Art Journal Freedom. It's by Dina Wakely, and she is amazing, right? Like she has been in the industry and the field like forever. And she is probably one of my favorite people to follow and learn from. Art Journal Freedom is from 2013. So I have had this book for a while, and I've actually gone ahead and done a few of the lessons. One of the things that I like the most about this particular book is Dina talks about what I was talking about earlier, and that's the study of looking at why you really like something. And she spells it out. Like it might be you like it because there's white space and there's not something going on in every single order and place on your piece. She also talks about continuity, having some closure, and then she gets into exercises where, like, okay, let's scrape some painted backgrounds. Let's give that technique a whirl. She talks about layers. She talks about how close your elements are to each other, combining elements. Honestly, it's a great book. I've picked it up more than a dozen times. So let me show you how I put some of that theory into practice. This is one of my art journals. It's a bigger one. And so I did her lesson on scraped backgrounds. So I took some paint and a credit card and I scraped the background. And I just kind of built up lots and lots of layers. I used for the letters here, I use lots of different modalities here. So my letters are actually tissue paper. So I stamped on tissue paper so that I would be able to see my background underneath. To achieve my silhouette, I cut out a lady from a magazine and then I painted it so that I would have the silhouette. Dina also talks about kind of hiding your text, just in case you don't necessarily want your art journal to be a sacred space that other people get to see. And so she talks a lot about, making big swoops and hiding what you have to say. And then in the theory of white space. So I did this composition where, I worked with a focal point, a background, some white space, and some balance. And then I sewed on the paper to create more depth in this particular element. So one of the things that comes up a lot in art journaling is how do you create these blended layers? So I've prepared for today. So this is a page of my art journal that came out. I prepped my background by collaging. So I collage with just random pieces of book paper, and then I put gesso over the top of it. And one of my favorite tools, all-time tools to use in art journaling and in my projects are these crayons. So these are the Neocolor 2, and these are water soluble, so they're going to move. And so one of the ways that I do my backgrounds is I start with not too many colors, right? So we've talked about that a lot here on the show, is having a limited color background so that you just have like a smidge more control. So I really like pink and orange together, pink and orange, and then just a smooch of blue, and then maybe even some white. And I'm just going to demo how you can get these blended colors. So we're going to put down some of the pink, and then I'm going to put down some of the orange. And you would just pretend that I'm doing this over the whole paper, right? And then let's put down some blue and some white. So again, my background is collage paper, and then I put gesso on top and I let that dry. And now I am using the Neocolor 2s and I'm putting them on top. And then I'm just going to take some clean water and I'm going to blend those out. And they are highly, highly pigmented, so I can pull that across the paper and get those layers. What I'm going to do though is I've got my water off to the side. I'm going to kind of get that orange off before I go down to the blue, and I'm going to spread out the blue. But if I didn't want to, I can bring some of that blue back up into the orange. We can do the same here with that magenta. Just spread it out and then add it or clean in between. Right? And then we keep going. So I don't know, it might be a little bit harder for you to see on the screen here, but the color from where I am is really pretty awesome. And we're just going to keep working across the page. And I would say that as a result, that's pretty creamy. Like it's a creamy background. And the thing that I love the most about these crayons is that I can add later, even where it's just a little bit wet, and I'm not going to damage the crayon. Like this is what they're made for. They're made for blending colors and getting these fun, creamy backgrounds. And of course, whoops, you see that? I went right over the white and I didn't clean in between. So I'm just going to rinse my brush and see what I get. So in the land of mixed media techniques, I would say that having these particular tools in your arsenal is awesome, and you're going to love working with them. And then when it dries, that is how I made some of these backgrounds. Let me show you again here. So I made these backgrounds in my art journal the exact same way. So you can paint and scrape, or you can color and then use water to kind of mush them out and make them go further. So again, the book, Art Journal Freedom, Dina Wakely, 2013, most definitely a 10 out of 10. I learn so much every single time I pick up this book. And I think what Dina is the best at, I got to hand it to her for her use of white space. She reminds me all the time to chill out, and not every composition needs tons and tons of layers and tons of stuff. So I think she's awesome at that. She's also really, really good at, like for example, you want to put something down in your book and you don't want to wait for either a gel medium or a Mod Podge or a homemade brew to dry. Dina's like, get your stapler and just staple that thing in. She does a lot with silhouettes. She does a lot with handwriting, hidden handwriting. And as we were talking today, she talks about color theory and color schemes. So highly recommend. 10 out of 10 in the Happy Time points. This is a really great resource, and I think you will absolutely love having it. So highly recommend. All right. Emily, do you do much in the way of art journaling?
I don't. I used to.
You probably
I
keep a sketchbook, I would imagine.
I actually don't. I think turning this into a full-time business, I
You're busy.
think unfortunately, yeah, I think you end up when you turn anything into your full-time business, you end up having less time to just play around and do whatever. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being here. You have just given us so much information today. watercolor, paper, brushes, how to start, how to not get in your way, how to practice, making sure that you spend a little bit of time teaching and training yourself, going to Google, doing some color theory, like all great, like 100 ideas today. And I will be sure in our show notes to link people back to one, yeah, signing up for your newsletter, right? That's a great thing for people to do. You also have online classes through Skillshare. You have in-person classes in the Madison, Wisconsin area.
Mhm.
And you have a bunch of really valuable content in the way of free downloads.
Yep.
So,
Both free. And then there's also some paid downloads
oh,
of like past classes that I've taught that are digital downloads. So
okay,
they're just like a cheap fee. And then all those have online tutorials that you get a link to YouTube tutorial. And so you get to watch it, which I
awesome,
think is very helpful for beginners. A lot of times with watercolors, you want to see how much water are you using? You want to
right,
see how much pigment do I put on the paper? So
right.
that's why
Absolutely.
I created it that way. So
I will link all of that. And I know Happy Time folks are so supportive of the things that artist friends are working on. So thank you in advance, everyone, for going and checking that out and signing up for Emily's newsletter. Or even if you want to get in line for a commission for a pet portrait, that would be super great too. And Emily does have, you have a discount code for our listeners,
I
um,
do.
10% off. Remind me.
Of anything that I sell on my website. So
Okay.
you can get 10% off of custom pet portraits, downloads.
Woo!
I sell watercolor kits that come with everything you need to paint at home. So if you want to test out Arches paper,
Yeah.
some of the floral kits, I have
Wow.
birds, I have jewel tone botanicals. All of those are using Arches paper, and they come
Okay.
with paints and a brush and online tutorials and
Oh my
shipped
gosh.
to you for free.
So the code is Get More Art, and that's for 10% off your order. And Emily, thank you. We really appreciate that. So very kind of you. But before we let you go, we have one more thing we need to get to. A very popular segment here at the Happy Time Craftcast, and that's our Happy 10. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 8, but it is questions that we ask all of our guests. You can give one word answers, you can elaborate. It's completely up to you. It just gives us a chance to get to know you better, and hopefully the questions aren't too hard. So the first one is, Emily, what is your favorite word?
Oh man.
And it can be right now, right? Like we know these things change. And for those of you here live, I would like to know your favorite word in the comments too, please.
I think organized. Only because I
Oh,
feel like I have to be at work and it
right.
helps me a lot.
Oh, I love that word too. It's such it denotes accomplishment to me. So
Mhm.
I love that. I think that's awesome. My favorite word changes all of the time. But I think right now, because I am a Minnesotan with adult children who live in Minneapolis, my favorite word right now is peaceful. And so I think about that a lot as I am manifesting peace and safety for my family. Kathy's is precious, which I love. Thank you, Kathy. That's a really good one, too. All right, here's your next one, Emily. Hopefully, this one's easy, too. So, then do you have a least favorite word?
Ooh, I mean, I think it's been on my brain a lot, but just stress and how
Oh,
to manage stress with, of course, everything that's going
mhm.
on. And I'm trying to find, as you say, trying to find peace in,
Yep.
the world we're living in and in our
Yep.
own personal lives. So I would say stress.
Both of your words, organized and stress, like they're very like I feel emotion when I say both of those words. So I really identify with what you've chosen today. Because yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I don't like the word stress because I don't like being in it or experiencing it. Like I can feel that one in my skin for sure. All right, here's our next one, and it's important because my favorite food is toast. And it's almost close to lunchtime. So, Emily, do you believe there is like what is the best kind of sandwich?
Ooh, I'm gonna say tuna fish only because it reminds me of my mom growing up with
Oh,
pickles on the side.
yeah, that's so sweet. Don't you find too that like the tuna fish that you are raised on is like only, to me, it's like potato salad is like the only one that tastes okay. Like I don't
Yes.
like any other potato salad but my mom's, and I don't like
Uh-huh.
any other tuna fish other than my mom's. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like a core memory or
Yeah,
something.
I
Mm,
agree.
yeah. Um, so last week I talked at length about my favorite sandwich, so I won't do that again because I'm sure my listeners are rolling their eyes because they know what I'm going to say because I say the same thing every time. So I am going to say that when I don't have that other one that I talk about all the time, I also enjoy like I like just sourdough with a little bit of butter and American cheese, and the cheese has to go on the sourdough toast like it's right when it's hot. And there's something about, and not American, I mean cheddar, like a sharp cheddar and the sourdough, like there's something kind of amazing about each bite. So just trust me. Like it's so good. I swear to you. Okay. Back to you, Emily. So, you're an artist. We talked about it at the top of the show, but like what does it mean to you that like you are an artist and this is your gig?
I would say freedom because as you could see, I have a almost 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Being an artist has given me the freedom to stay at home
Mhm.
as a stay-at-home mom for 2.5 years, but still create and generate some sort of income for our family. And
Right.
so it's something that I think about a lot, that
Yeah.
it offers me a lot of freedom that other careers haven't. I was a public school teacher before this,
Mm-hmm.
and I think art has allowed me to spend some of the most important years of my daughter's life with
With
me.
her. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, and Emily, I was cruising around your website and you offer a lot of live events. So you are hustling in addition to the in-person classes and the online classes. Like it is clear that you've been very purposeful in like creating your product, which is great. And I think that I love how the world has opened to artists and that we have like so many more options now than like we used to have, probably because we just weren't thinking about it and the internet didn't support it in the way that it does now. So I think that's awesome. I love that for you and for all of us. I think it's just liberating. So is there a profession other than the one you're in that you would like to attempt?
That's a good question.
Right?
Um, I don't know, maybe like travel guide or something. I love
Sure. Like going with
traveling.
them, like going with them.
Yes. And
Yeah.
actually, I know I've been in the back of my head, I would love to one day, maybe years down the line, open up, like tropical resort watercolor workshops where, I host and people come to Mexico or the
Right.
Bahamas and we paint botanicals and sip on cocktails and
I love that. I love that. That's
probably that. Yeah.
awesome. I love it. Is there a profession that you're like, nope, not gonna do it. That's not for me. Could not attempt.
Hmm. Probably uh being a chef. I love cooking, but
Oh,
I think working in a restaurant sounds
oh,
extremely stressful.
yeah.
Um and it just and the hours and
Well, I am married to a chef. And so my chef is also an engineer. So he's a mechanical and software engineer. And now he is a chef. And his job here is so stressful and so hard. And like he is on his feet sometimes like 20 hours a day during retreats and stuff. And he can't stop because it's all timing. So agreed. Like that's a hard one. Like it's really
yeah,
hard.
I'll cook at home any day,
Right,
but I
right.
think, running a restaurant and that amount of stress and combined with the hours just doesn't sound
Well, and
fun
it's
to me.
like, in his experience, it's like he has to prep it, make it, serve it, clean it up, prep it, make it, serve it, clean it up, prep it, make it, serve it, clean, like it's a whole day of rotation. Um, and I guess to the other layer of it is then people have opinions.
Yeah.
Over something you've worked so hard on. And, everyone loves his food, of course, but like, and he takes feedback so well, but I wouldn't want to do that because, it's like his artistry. So
Yeah.
good call. Let's not do that one. All right, last one for you here. What brings you the most happiness?
Oh, well, I'm an outdoors person. I
Yeah.
mean, being in Minnesota and Wisconsin, I feel like we have some of the best areas, natural areas, and state parks combined out of both the states. And so I would say going on a hike with my daughter in the nice bright sun, maybe around a lake, and having some lunch afterwards, and
Right.
that brings me the
Making
most
it
happiness.
making a day of it. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that, I mean, other than my family, yeah, they're great. I love them. Those guys are awesome. I think that being being in community with people who want to like explore and play and have fun creatively, like I love that. I love guiding and teaching and leading people into this space where, like it's not high risk, right? It's just so rewarding and such a wonderful form of self care. So I love that. I love artsy people, craftsy people, and I love how excited we all get about it. Like, I just think it's awesome.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, thanks. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I will make sure to do everything that I promised, that we are going to link all the things in our show notes. And again, everybody, it's Get More Art over on Emily's website for 10% off your entire order. And Emily, can you just remind us of the URL real quick?
Yep. So it's just EmilyMarieWatercolors.com.
Yep, EmilyMarieWatercolors.com. And friends, when you go over there, um, she is a prolific creator. There is a lot to choose
Thank
from
you.
over there between the courses, the commissions, the classes, and the downloads. Like there's something for everyone. So I know you'll show your support by scooting on over there and at least signing up for her newsletter and staying in touch. Our next show, everybody, is on February 11th, and it is demonstration time. Next week, our show is dedicated to the Februlage Collage Challenge. The Februlage Collage Challenge is an online challenge where there is a prompt a day to create a collage. So we're going to talk about that. So far, the first one was Boom. And that was my collage for Boom. The second word was toast. And you know it's my favorite food. So look at, I have a lady in a toaster. And it says, I don't think you understand how much I love toast. And the third one was ballet. So there's my composition for ballet. So we're going to talk about this next week. We're going to talk about how you use the prompts, how you can get involved, and what makes the Februlage Collage Challenge a really exciting, crafty time happening. So that's next week, February 11th. All right, Emily Marie, EmilyMarieWatercolors.com. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
You're
having me.
welcome. You're welcome. And for all of you listening, thanks so much for being here at the Happy Time Craftcast. Please make sure to do the things, like and subscribe. Do the whole thing on iTunes so that more folks can find us. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you do all kinds of things that make you all kinds of happy. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.